All right, well, today we are going to modernize the Scottish Psalter. And not only are we going to do that, but we are going to productionize it and actually put it up on the web on its own dedicated website. Well, hello again. My name is Conley Owens. I'm a pastor at Silicon Valley Reformed Baptist Church, and welcome to the Adventic Pastor. Well, my church uses a hymnal for singing, and the hymnal has a lot of psalms in it, at least partially. It has a representation from all the psalms, but does not have the psalms in whole, and we have no dedicated psalter, that is, no dedicated book of psalms for singing. So occasionally, I will take an older psalter and then modernize it for use in worship. Now, there are two things that have made this a little more urgent at the moment. First of all, we are singing through Psalm 119 just before the preaching, Psalm 119 being about the Word of God, of course. And then on top of that, I have a conference upcoming where we have sung psalms in the previous conference, and I want to sing some more. So I need to have a larger set of these ready to go. Now, AI could really help here. It could help both with the modernization, and it could help with the task of displaying these, setting the music, etc. So today, this is what we are going to be attacking. Let me go ahead and pull up Claude here. Okay, so we're going to break this up into two different tasks. The first task is going to be modernizing the Psalms. The second task is going to be putting this on a web page where it can be displayed with engraved music. Engraved being the term for, making all the notes on the page, etc. So, with that, let's go ahead and get started. What I typically do these days is I just write down what I'm interested in bullet points, because I want to know what I'm about to say, but I don't really need much more than a bullet point. And then I'm going to speak out for each bullet point, pretty much a whole sentence. So here we go. This project is to modernize the Scottish Psalter. I would like you to download the whole Scottish Psalter and then put it in one directory, and then there will be a modernized version of that in the other directory. You can start off with just copying every single one of the Psalms, because we are just going to edit them in place. I already have some modernizations that you can use that can be found here. And I'm going to go ahead and copy a link to some that we did for last year's conference. I'm going to put those in there. I would like you to also create a skill that will help me review ones that are not finished being modernized. This skill will start up a small web app that will allow me to navigate through the whole Psalter, showing me which ones are complete and which ones are incomplete. Obviously, a status needs to be attached to each one of these. For the ones that are incomplete, when I view it, it will show a progress indicator while you come up with suggestions for how I could modernize it. In modernizing it, it's important that we achieve true rhymes and not half rhymes. It's also important that the number of syllables be appropriate for common meter. Just a detail here, the Scottish Psalter, if you don't know about it, is all in common meter. That's 8 beats and 6 beats and 8 beats and 6 beats. So in this view, it should show me anything that's problematic. The syllable count should probably be in red if it isn't what it ought to be. Also, words that are not true rhymes should probably also be in red. And then underneath that, you will show me suggested diffs that can be edits that I will be able to click and apply that would make true rhymes. You can show me these diffs with a whole stanza at a time, but the diff should be in line so that it's easier to look at. I think this is almost everything here. Let's see. Yeah, I'll just give it one more hint. Obviously, we need a real syllable counting tool so that the syllable counting is consistent across the Psalms. That should not just be something that you are guessing at each time. So this is one of those things I've mentioned before where you need to know which things need to be scripts and which things should be AI-based judgments. So we want AI to create a script to determine syllable counts. I think this is going to be pretty straightforward. I did talk about the rhyming issue and I talked about the syllable issue. I think this is going to be pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter on this. And then I'm going to start up another instance of Claude here. And in this instance of Claude, I'm going to switch to Fable. Now, Fable is a different model that costs about twice as much to use. So it's more expensive. It burns tokens faster. But it's going to be better for less straightforward work and where more creative judgments are needed, especially about software. Because in this tab, I'm going to be describing the web page that I want built to display all these songs. Now I am going to keep it on high effort. I'm not sure if maybe switching to medium effort would be better for Fable. I haven't really experimented with it enough to know. Anyway, changing to Fable 5 for the model. And then I'm going to give it the instructions now. I would like you to create a website to display the Psalms, both the original and the modernized ones that are here in this directory. You should download a bunch of common meter tunes that you can display these with, along with MIDI files that you can use to play on the web page. And each psalm, since this is part of the Scottish Psalter, should mix and match with every tune. There is an interesting issue here in that some are common meter double. There should be some kind of UI indicator about psalms that have an odd number of verses not being quite matched with common meter double tunes. Figure that out eventually. Ideally, you would also have 4-part harmony for every one of these. And the MIDI files would also have 4-part harmonies. So you probably don't want to download MIDI files. You probably want to create them directly with the 4-part harmonies that you have. It would be nice to be able to decide which parts are playing as we play the file. I would also like you to use a web-based engraver for the music. Use an open source featureful one. I don't have opinions on which one in particular. I would also like you to choose sensible guitar chords, perhaps with a capo, for each tune so that can be displayed also with the engraved. I would like these to be printable, so when one goes to print, it would print it in a way where the web page features would be hidden and just the music would be displayed. files will change over time as I continually modernize these. So the build step for this site should be aware of that and update accordingly. I like putting Easter eggs in websites, so I'm going to add something about that too. You should also add an Easter egg so that when someone types in the Konami code, Joseph Haydn's The Heavens Are Telling ends up playing. Maybe this would be a full screen video. You can use a popular rendition of this, but definitely not the Mormon Tabernacle one. All right, there we go. Let's see how it does. All right, well, Fable is still going in building this website, but we do have this skill done. So I should have something here. Let's see, what is it called? Psalter review. Let's try that, Psalter review. There were some things I probably should have told it as far as making the interface for me to interact with it that I didn't say, so we'll see how much it understood here. All right, well, it brought up the server, but I don't believe it opened it in any browser. Okay, no, it did, but it opened it up with the Claude extension. So let's just be real clear about that. When you open up this tab, don't do it with the Claude extension. Just open up it in Chrome directly, because there's no point in you having control of the tab. Make sure that this is clear in the skill or script. All right, so this is what we have. I've noticed that Claude has been designing everything in this ugly brown color lately, and I don't know how much that is something that I have accidentally set, but yeah, I would like it to stop doing that. For the main website itself, this is just a review, but for the main website itself, I'm thinking we're going to have to give it some instruction to make it prettier. All right, so 119, oh, interesting. Some of them are sufficiently modernized, I suppose. All right, good. All right, Psalm 119. We've got these initial ones. Okay, yeah. These are things that should probably be fixed. All right, let's go ahead and look at, oh, I see, interesting. It is looking at them by stanza. This is all a bit much. Okay. Hang on. Let me give it an instruction about Psalm 119. Psalm 119 should be broken into its parts as opposed to a single review. All right, I would like to look at Psalm 50. Psalm 50. Okay, once again. Okay. I'm not sure I like this because, well, no, I do want to keep it close to the original Psalter, so I don't think we'll ever add or remove stanzas in order to fix things. So maybe this approach is good. I wonder how actively it's actually getting these versus just putting it on a queue and making me wait a really long time. It is also, of course, doing that one change that I asked for, breaking up Psalm 119. I noticed that it's taking a long time to get suggestions for how to fix the stanzas. Is this something that can be fixed with subagents? Now, this is the website that it's in the process of building to display them. And it's interesting that some of these are marked as long meter and small meter. Is it small meter? Is that what SM stands for? SM, LM, CM, CMD. Let me just check here real quick. Long meter, short meter. I didn't think that any in the Scottish Psalter were short meter or a long meter, so I don't know what's up with that. I will ask about that. Let me go ahead and ask here. I noticed that some of these psalms are listed as long meter and short meter. I thought the Scottish Psalter was only common meter. Am I mistaken? All right, one thing that's happening here is that these two agents are fighting each other a little bit over this Psalm 119 breakdown. This might, they might end up conflicting with each other about that change, but I think it's going to sort itself out in a second. Yeah, look at this. There's a number of things going on here. I suspect the issue is that it's just miscounting syllables or not understanding how the breakdown was supposed to happen. Okay, I might just have to instruct it about that. Yeah, it's just going to take a while. All right, well, Fable is done with this. I'm kind of curious about how much usage it took, how many tokens it burned. So let's go ahead and look at that. I'm on the $200 a month plan, and let's see, that went from, I was at about 36% usage before, and now 41, so not bad, not bad. Only about 5% usage for that whole endeavor. I can handle that. I don't do things that big that often. Okay, so apparently there are a few alternate versions. Let me figure that out. So Psalm 25 is short meter and long meter. Okay. Psalm 50 has both. Interesting. Psalm 67 has both. Yeah, so, oh, whoops, I'm not showing you the monitor, but as you can see, each one of these that has a different meter also has a second version that is in common meter. Interesting. Okay, I'm going to give it a few notes about the appearance of everything. No tunes available for meter. Okay, 3 tunes, an LM tune. Right, nice engravings. We've got engravings. It doesn't display the words with the engraving. So let me go ahead and make comments. I was expecting with the engravings for the lyrics themselves to be displayed. I understand that some of these psalms can be very long, so I suppose that if there are too many verses, you display them at the end of the page. Also, there doesn't seem to be padding at the page level. Also, I think the coloring of the site is pretty dull. Please pick something a little brighter, yet not too feminine. We'll see what it does with that. And then it says guitar capo up here, but does not specify that on the sheet itself. I wonder what print looks like. So if I click print, we'll do this. And I think these notes at the bottom are unavoidable. I think I have to cancel that in Chrome. Okay, now we have, let's tell it to cut that out a bit more. On the print version, we should not have so much boilerplate. It really should just be the sheet music. Also, the capoing needs to be printed in the sheet music. Also, every hymn, when it's displayed, should default to the modernized one, not the original. It should display whether or not the modernized one is complete or a work in progress. Please put the MIDI controls above the music instead of below the music. You can go ahead and procure the additional tunes for short meter, long meter, etc. All right, a lot of things there. I think I'm gonna stick with that for now, and I'll be back at this later. Instead of not yet modernized, say modernization incomplete. So I noticed that in this tool I have to modernize it. It's actually giving me some pretty good suggestions, but I can't compare it against scripture itself, which is what I'd really like to do. So I'm gonna go back to this. In this tool, for a given suggestion, I also need to be able to see the equivalent passage from the King James. I have the King James version downloaded, so you should be able to use that. Yeah, I have globally information about different Bible versions. So that is something that all of my Claude agents and projects know about. Yeah, I would recommend, especially, in the work of ministry, that you would have some kind of global directory with those sorts of resources, and then have a .claude file or a .agents file, or no, that's not what they're called. Sorry, an agents.md or claude.md file that explains what all those are, and that it should be using those even in other projects. All right, so now it's displaying the King James next to this, so I can compare it a bit. Simon's Hill, which of excellency and beauty the perfection is, God shined gloriously, doesn't exactly rhyme, but we've got these options from Mount Zion's Hill, the perfect crown of grace. Does crown of grace, see, that's a little too much. Perfect seat of light. Okay, perfect crown of grace, perfect seat of light. Let's give some feedback here. The perfect seat of light is too much creative license. This needs to be much more direct, in accord with the King James text. Please add that to the rules that determine how you give suggestions. Also, add a button to dismiss a suggestion or give feedback to a suggestion with a text box. Also, it would be nice if the stanzas themselves appeared in a text area that I would be able to edit and submit to change it directly. I would like it if on the psalm page we displayed the King James text for that psalm. It keeps interpreting me as saying song instead of psalm, but it's working each time, so I guess that's all right. Let me go ahead and try some of these features. See how Arlington worked out. So if I change to Asmon, nice. Okay, don't like the capos appearing in the drop down. Do not display the capo in the drop down. Also, it would be good if we could change the MIDI instrument to something other than that voice sound. So now it has a say why button that does something there. That's kind of nice. Okay. You can say the perfect ground of grace, etc. I wonder if it will change these given that I've already given it feedback though. Let me just go ahead and I'll tell it why. Crown of grace is too much poetic license. Oh, it's actually restarting the review server, so this might not do anything. Let me switch back. Okay, let me go ahead and just wait for it to restart the review server. On the home page, do not display the information about 184 settings, etc., or when the text was rebuilt. Also remove the subtitle for the page, the Psalms of David and Meter, etc. If we come back here, there's a lot of things I'm trying to remove from this, but I guess just to kind of clarify what's happening here, I've got this one where I'm trying to edit the Psalms. I've got this one where I will display them for others. And I'm just trying to get this to look a little nicer at this point. This one I'm trying to get a little nicer. This one I'm trying to get to be more functional for me. It doesn't seem to be updated. Do you need to reload? Oh, I just needed to do a force reload. That was the problem. Okay, so yeah. Control Shift R should do a force reload. There we go. We're good now. This would be nice if it were centered. Can you center the search text box? At some point here, I might switch back over to Opus. I don't really need to be in Fable anymore at this point, since it's done the bulk of all this. Now this is interesting too, because in practice, I would like to have parts of this to be sung to different short meter tunes. I wonder if there's a standard breakdown for this. Let me ask. Some of the Psalms are very long. Is there a standard way of breaking them down for singing with the Scottish Psalter? I know there is for Psalm 119, but is that true with the others? Of course, Psalm 119 is an acrostic, corresponding to the Hebrew alphabet, so the divisions are very natural there. In displaying the King James Version, I would like you to show one line per verse, as it is traditionally rendered. Let's look at a little more of the features for this MIDI. Let's see. Well, it restarts every time I do that. So it's not playing all the parts. Interesting. Parts. But if I go like this, it seems that it's stuck on whatever I did the first time. So if I do this, it'll just be 1, and it will stay on 1. For soprano, alto, tenor, bass, whichever selection I choose before the first play seems to stick regardless of what I click after that. It should update every time I click a different set. Also, I would expect it to change the audio as I'm playing rather than restart. Okay, let's see how those recommendations are doing. Okay, it has that there. I'm going to refresh. There we go. All right, let's see what happens. From out of Zion's Hill, which of excellency and beauty perfection is, God shined gloriously. All right, gloriously shined he. Oh, what's a short meter tune? Because I don't know how to sing this. Let's see. It's playing the same thing regardless of what I pick. These are not things I know. Alright, know this one. Out of Zion's hill, which of excellency. Man, yeah, this is pretty hard to sing here. God out of Zion's hill, which of excellency. Blah. How does it break it up here? Are we in out of Zion's hill? Okay, now hang on. So I noticed that the first numbers are not printed appropriately because I don't see any verse 2. Please print the psalm verse numbers in the sheet music as well before the verse begins. All right, well, this should definitely be Zion's Hill with a possessive from out of Zion's Hill. I don't know why the original just says Zion Hill. Which of excellency? Which of excellency? Oh man, why am I struggling here? What is short meter? This is part of the problem. All right, 6686. All right. From out of Zion's Hill. Which of... Yeah, the emphasis is pretty awkward there. Which... Well, actually, I'm not sure how the meter works. Let's see. Where's the stress? All right, so I think I've got the meter in my brain a little bit more now. So, God out of Zion's hill, which of excellency and beauty the perfection is, gloriously shined he. Yeah, so that's a little awkward, but it's better than what it was before. So I'm actually going to, let's see, save this because I wanted the possessive. And then yeah, I wanted that possessive. Yeah, no suggestions. Well, it should be getting suggestions. So let's mention that. I edited one stanza directly, and it did not give me new suggestions. All right, let's just jump down to here. And then the heaven shall his righteousness declare, because the Lord himself is he, by whom men judge it are. Yeah, are and declare. Not a great rhyme. Who judges all men there is not bad, for God is judge himself. Will his righteousness declare, because the Lord himself is he who judges all men there. Oh, this one's better. And then the heaven shall his righteousness make known, because the Lord himself is he who judges he alone. Oh, that's really good. That's nice. Okay. Gonna apply that. All right, so just a little bit here in Psalm 50, but just to make this a little more complete for us, I would like us to be looking primarily at Psalm 119 after Yod. Let's do Yod because this is the next one of Psalm 119 that I need to modernize. So let's just go through this one together and see if we can do it. Thou madest and fashioned me, thy laws. Okay, wait, this is so this is common meter. So we can do this to the tune of Crimond, which is what a lot of people sing Psalm 23 to. Thou madest and fashionest me, thy laws to know. Give wisdom, Lord, so who thee fear shall joy to see me trusting in thy word. This is a common issue, in my opinion, with the Scottish Psalter, is that it rhymes Lord and word a lot, and those, at least in our English, just do not rhyme very well at all. So I'm going to wait for this to give suggestions. I believe this is working right now. It might not be because it might be thrashing trying to change things. So I don't know. We'll see. But let's just move on here. Let me see. Okay, there's a syllable issue here where was promised by thee. Okay, so we might need to specify that this is actually supposed to be a 3-syllable promised. That will be an interesting thing. Lord, let the proud ashamed be, for they without a cause with me. Yeah, another one of ashamed. Okay, so we might be able to instruct it to make those EDs distinct syllables when they need to be. I suppose that can be done with a hyphen, so I will instruct it in that. A lot of these are missing a syllable because the assumption of the Psalter is that the final ED of some past tense word is supposed to be pronounced distinctly, even though that's not how it is in typical English. I don't think this is consistent either for any given word. For example, blessed could sometimes be 1 syllable or sometimes be 2 syllables. Maybe this should be indicated with a hyphen when it is ambiguous. can you do a pass through all the Psalms and add that hyphen where it clearly is needed? So this is complaining that it can't do a seamless switch, but I bet it could. Well, first of all, let's hard reload because it is telling me to hard reload. All right, hard reload, remember, is Control-Shift-R. All right, let's press. Yes. When we do that, so let's try this again. You should be able to have some strategy of just playing all four at the same time, but with certain ones of them muted as you want. Is that not something that you can do so that it doesn't need to rebuild each time? In general, I would say that this MIDI player is a bit crowded and messy. I'm going to just ask it to clean that up. In general, the MIDI player is a bit crowded and messy. Can you just clean it up and make it more user-friendly in general? So something here is the Hebrew alphabet really isn't enough. I would like the actual verses displayed in these. On the home page where you have all the different Psalm 119 Psalms, it would help most people if they could see the verses that is covered by that range instead of just the Hebrew letter. So please show with Psalm 119 also the verses. You don't seem to have Auld Lang Syne in your list of tunes. Okay, wow, it did not spell that correctly. Please make sure Auld Lang Syne gets added. It's not going to do it again. Auld Lang Syne. So one thing that's interesting here is all the hymns that I gave it at the beginning, it's marked in progress when they should be done. And I don't want to go mark them all individually in progress because I'm afraid that there might be some reason why it's like that. So I'm going to mention that. I've noticed that all the Psalms that I gave you in the beginning are marked as in progress. If there's nothing wrong with them, I would like you to mark them complete. The review tool is telling me that you are getting suggestions, but I don't think you are. Can you look into this and also make it so that if the server disconnects or whatever the case may be, that the site would show me that there's a problem rather than just spinning endlessly? All right, we have some suggestions here, but I would like a few more, so I'm going to ask for a button to do that. Can you add a button for each stanza that needs suggestions? A button that would let me get more suggestions. Over here on the hymns, we do have sung Amen now, which is very nice. I notice that they're not really ending on the right phrasing though, which they should be. Thou madest and fashioned me. Thou madest and fashioned me. So ideally it would start a new line right here. That should be fixed. Can you make sure that there is a new line in the music appropriate for the lines in the stanzas. A single line in the stanza should not be multiple lines should not straddle multiple lines in the sheet music. I would also like it if when I asked for another, I could make special requests with a text box. Well, over here, it's worth looking at the MIDI player. That really has improved quite a bit. Let's see what we've got going on here. Seems like it's all... That's weird. It seems like it's all just pinned on bass. The MIDI player seems to have everything baked into bass. I only hear audio if I have bass on, and if I have it off, everything is off. Well, it's interesting. I told it not to straddle lines, and so it put 2 lines on a single line, 2 lines of a stanza on a single line of the sheet music. I'm kind of curious, just looking at the Baptist Trinity hymnal that my church uses, if any of the common meter tunes appear that way. Yeah, they do actually. So here's Psalm 23, and it is, all 4 lines show up on 2 lines of the sheet music. So I guess that is a way of doing it. All right, so I really like this suggestion here. Thy hands have made and fashioned me, let wisdom be conferred. So who thee fear shall joy to see me trusting in thy word. This is the same. This is the part that's different. Conferred, rhyming with word, is pretty clever. But it does not say conferred to me, which would be nice. Something similar to the current suggestion, only include the first person object somehow. I don't know if this is a good one, but we'll see what happens with that. I would also like a way to request suggestions for ones that are already quote unquote clean, because some of the language is a bit too obscure. All right, let's see if this works now. Very good. You know what would be really cool? If it had a way of highlighting these as they went through. Now that would be really neat. Let's go ahead and try that one. Would you have any way to highlight the notes as they are being played? Now this is interesting here. For these longer ones, we're not able to show it all on one page, and so it breaks poorly. I'm gonna have it try fixing that. When I go to print a long hymn, it doesn't respect the page break well. Is there any way that you can improve that without assuming the paper size? All right, it should have this working now. Not quite. I don't see the notes lighting up. Let me just refresh, find out. All right, so after I asked for suggestions with older language, I noticed that it's giving me proactively some suggestions, which are good. Instead of "Lord, let the proud ashamed be," which doesn't need to rhyme since it's just the first line. "Lord, let the proud be put to shame." That really is better here. Let me display the King James. "Let the proud be ashamed." Yeah, let all the proud be shamed. Yeah, I do think that even if it's not quite as direct from the King James, it is pretty nice. "Lord, let the proud be put to shame." Yeah, I think I prefer that. And instead of "was promised, Lord, by thee," the question is, what does it say? "Let, I pray thee." Oops. Just happened. I lost it. "Let thy kindness merciful, I pray thee comfort me, as to thy servant faithfully has been promised by thee." Has been promised. Yeah, it doesn't flow very well. "Oh, let thy kindness merciful, I pray thee comfort me, as to thy servant faithfully was promised, Lord, by thee." So that's good, except for "Lord" is an addition that's not here in the original text. "Let, I pray thee, thy merciful kindness be comfort according to thy word unto thy servant." I might just ask about this one in general. Let's see. Let's pull that over here. Does the 1650 Psalter... How often does the Scottish Psalter add God or Lord when it is not in the original text? All right, so interestingly, it says that the Psalter does add 57 times. Now, is that enough to justify adding one here just to not have to say "promised," to say "promised, Lord, by thee"? I'm going to go ahead and do it. Let's do it. Apply the stanza. And then up here, I've looked at these other options. I still like "let wisdom be confirmed," even though it does not include me anywhere in here. Let's go ahead and do that one too. Okay, so we've got our Psalm 119. Now, if we look here, this isn't going to be rebuilt. So I just want to see how this looks with Auld Lang Syne, because I like Auld Lang Syne. And we've got a lot of good stuff in here. Let's go ahead and try playing it. Okay. And then what about printing? If I print it, it does handle page breaks correctly, which is nice. Although this one, it's not clear to me. It should have been able to put 4 on one line. So let's suggest changing the size of things so that it can make sure to be able to get 4 on one page. Yeah, I know that there's going to be differences depending on how many extra lines there are and stuff. That is a little interesting. And then there's the question of, well, what happens when you put all 4 on there and there's extras? Well, that's not as clear, but let's go ahead and make some suggestions here. Okay, so coming over here, let's go ahead and kill this one because this one's not needed. Let's see. Okay. That looks a lot better. However, I've noticed that we can't fit even 3 lines on a single page if there is a title. It would be good if we could fit 4. So the size, at least for the printing style, needs to be shrunk enough so that we can do that. I know that it will be different depending on the number of verses And even extra verses at the end would make things interesting, because extra verses shouldn't be displayed on a page independent of the music itself. So maybe there's a suggestion you can give here. I don't know. I gave up. On coming up with a solution for that one. All right. All this looks a lot more reasonable. If I try printing one of these common meter ones, we've got a number of verses in here. We've got a couple of extra afterward. That looks really reasonable. But if I do go to a common meter double one, then we still end up on 2 pages. And I feel like with 3 verses, with 3 stanzas, that is, it should be able to print all that on a single page. There shouldn't be any problem there. So I'm going to give it feedback on that. Odd lang syne is one, for example, that I think should be able to show up on a single page. For Psalm 119, 73 through 80, it's only 3 stanzas long in common meter double. All 4 lines of the tune should be able to appear on the same page. And yes, basically all the sheet music that we have, I would like to simply appear on one page. The question is what to do when there are a lot of extra verses. I suppose we can ensure in printing that they would appear on a page nearby. Although obviously that doesn't work with just computer printing where it's on the back of the page. At this point, I'm just talking to it a little too much because I don't know what it's going to do with this information about my frustration. All right, let's work on Psalm 50 short meter a little bit more here. I think this one is a simple fix. God hath shined, even he. This one seems a little more involved. Out of Zion God hath shined forth, and it is he that is perfection of beauty and excellency. Yeah, that's a bit more change than I want. This one does the trick. The only problem is it got rid of my fix where instead of saying Zion Hill, we say Zion's Hill. Zion's Hill. I think we need to do that. There we go. Save stanza. There shouldn't be a problem with that. So let me go ahead and communicate. I edited Psalm 50 verse 2 in short meter to say Zion's Hill instead of Zion Hill, and it detected that as an additional syllable. But an apostrophe S shouldn't be an additional syllable usually. All right, coming back here. Let's keep going. The heaven shall declare his righteousness. In the heaven, excuse me, and then the heaven shall his righteousness declare, because the Lord himself is he by whom men judged are. Yeah, that's not great. And then the heaven shall his righteousness make known, because the Lord himself is he who judges, he alone. That one is pretty excellent. But to the wicked man God saith, my laws and truth shouldst thou declare, how darest thou take my covenant in thy mouth. Wow, truth in mouth. Yeah, that's not great. Said, how dost thou dare my covenant to take in thy mouth, or my laws to declare, my just laws to declare. That one's really good. What right hast thou my statutes to declare, take my covenant to avow. Yeah, this one's really good. How dost thou dare? Yeah, what hast thou to do to declare whether thou should? Yeah, this is pretty good. Yet I will thee reprove and set before thine eyes in order ranked thy misdeeds and thine iniquities. All right, yeah, that one needs to be improved. Thee reproved and set before thine eyes thy sins in order to
So before thine eyes, thy sins in order ranked, that all thy hidden guilt arise. Thy hidden guilt arise. Arise isn't the best word. What's the original here? Thou thoughtest that I was altogether such one as thyself, but I will reprove thee and set them in order before thine eyes. Thy sins in order ranked, that all thy hidden guilt arise. Okay, so it's adding a purpose there, which isn't the worst. That's not the worst. And I will thee reprove and set in thy own sight. Thy sins ranked more to all. Thy shame is brought to light. That's pretty good too. But I'm going to go with hidden guilt arise. That one's pretty good. Okay, let me go ahead and refresh. There we go. Okay. Now ye that God forget, this carefully consider, lest I in pieces tear you all, and none can you deliver. That's pretty close. That's too bad. Now ye that God forgot, consider this with care, lest I in place tear you all, and none shall save you there. None can deliver. What's the verse? Now consider this, ye that forget God, lest I tear you in pieces, and there be none to deliver. All right, consider what you do. That one's really good, and none deliver you. That one's really good. Okay, let's go with that. Okay, whoso doth offer praise, me glorifies, and I. Me glorifies, and I. Yeah, I'm not sure why it doesn't like that syllable. Or, oh no, it's the rhyme. It's the rhyme it's complaining about. Will show him God's salvation, and that orders right his way. Interesting. I and way. Okay, the original verse is, whoso offereth praise glorifieth me, and to him that ordereth his conversation aright will I show the salvation of God. Okay. So doth offer praise, me glorifies, and I, to him that orders right his way, will show salvation nigh. Nigh is a little bit much. Whoso doth offer praise, me glorifies, and he that orders right his way shall see God's full salvation free. That changes the person who's speaking. No, I will show the salvation of God. Okay, so it actually does work that way. And he that orders shall see. Yeah, but yeah, that changes the subject. It's not God showing there, so I don't quite like that. I, to him that orders right his way, will show salvation nigh. Yeah, what does nigh mean? Does it just mean near? Nigh, almost, near. Yeah. Yeah. I don't totally like that. Let's say similar to this. Working on more for that stanza. Not sure why. Okay, let's see. What do we have? We pretty much all of it except for this one. This original one. Not sure what's going on with this queue here. Let me go ahead and hard refresh to make sure. Okay, yeah, let's clear the request. Bring back some of the old ones. I don't know. I don't even know if it knows what it had suggested before. Oh no, we've lost oh no, okay, yeah, this is just the last one. All right, here we go. Okay, say similar to the salvation. Oh, why does that keep updating? That's really frustrating. I don't know why that's happening. Let me fix that. As I type, it ends up erasing the text that I have written. I'm not sure what's going on there. All right, let's go back to the site that displays them, and we will see what's going on here. The question is, can we print Psalm 119, something from Psalm 119, common meter double on a single page? And that was not common meter double. Common meter double print. Ooh, not quite. So that did not work. We're gonna have to try that one more time. It's still the case that odd lang syne for yod does not work. Not fit on a single page when I try printing. Although interestingly, I do notice that I'm trying to save to PDF, which, well, I don't have printers here, so I'm not sure what I should do about that, because I don't know if, all right, paper size letter. No, that's all I wanted to check. I just wanted to make sure that this was trying to do paper size letter. It should also be centered on the paper. It should also be centered on the paper, which it doesn't appear to be. Sorry, I was saying all that over here. All right, with these little servers that I've had it made me before, I have noticed that it will end up making these little text boxes that end up overwriting your input. I don't know why that's such a common issue with what I end up asking it to do, but it has something to do with the polling that it does. I think it's sitting and working because I'm asking it to build other things here. See, while I'm asking it to change the nature of this little review tool, I don't think it answers me because it doesn't really have a second agent that's just working on that, which it would be nice if it did, but doesn't seem to. I've noticed that a lot of my requests go unanswered for some time. Is there anything that you can do with the service to make sure that those requests don't go unanswered? See, I don't know what exactly it's doing. I don't know if it as AI is just watching this and then forgetting to poll, or if the server, when it receives a request, then asks AI. I'm not really sure what's going on here, and I guess if I were going to take this a little more seriously, I would figure it out and then I would choose one based on what I thought was best, but I don't really care enough right now to figure those things out. There it goes, it answered. There's nothing that drains the queue unless a Claude session happens to be watching. Let me build an actual worker. Okay, I guess that makes sense. All right, one last time with this printing odd lang syne. Here we go. Yes, and it all fits. Very nice. We've got that final amen, which is nice. We also have, for just a normal common meter, not common meter double, that's a pretty reasonable way of spelling it out. So I like it. Great. Fantastic. So this is explaining here that it's basically just running a headless model call for each one of these suggestions. That doesn't exactly sound like what it should be doing, so I'm going to ask it. Even if you make a headless model call, can't you call it specifying some key so that you would be able to maintain the context and it wouldn't really be like starting fresh? I would like you to check that that doesn't rebuild all the context and actually takes advantage of the cache. I would expect there to be documentation about this online. Sorry, this part is kind of technical, but what I'm trying to do is see whether or not this is expensive. I could just ask it that, how expensive is this compared to maintaining an agent that is watching the log of these requests that I'm sending. All right, so it decided that it is cheap to do. So we shall continue here. All right, so we've got this working here. Let's go ahead and figure this out. From out of Zion's hill, an excellence refined, and beauty that perfection is, then God in glory shined. Let's see, and the KJV is out of Zion, the perfection of beauty, God has shined. In excellence refined, in beauty, the perfection is. Yeah, okay. Okay, her excellency known, and God in Zion shown. All right, well, that repeats Zion, and does not, okay. This is not too bad. God shined gloriously, God in glory shined. Yeah, this is pretty close. Let's go ahead and go with this one, and then we will fix this. Oh, I was going to make a request here. Like the nigh one, but don't add the concept of nigh, as though salvation itself is not actually experienced, shown. I don't know. All right, let's go ahead and go with that. I'm curious how long this takes to make a headless request like that. Obviously, the other ones would go for a minute or so because things weren't working right. But now that it is actually initiating Claude and turning up the cache, I am wondering whether or not it's going to give us a clear answer right away, or if it's going to go for several minutes. All right, so this ended up taking about 1.5 minutes, maybe 2 minutes. It definitely wasn't the best experience. I have found this in general, my attempts to get a website to interact with Claude about specific suggestions and things like this tends to be a little long. So I feel like there's room for improvement here, but I'm not sure what it is. Although then again, if I had asked Claude directly, it probably would have taken 2 minutes. So maybe this is what I should expect. Or maybe I should just do a batch query where I'm asking for it to generate a ton of these so that they're on the ready, so I can just ask it. But then it wouldn't be taking specific recommendations. So I don't know what to do with that. Anyway, it has given me, after 2 minutes, one more suggestion. So let's look at that. Whoso doth offer praise me glorifies, and so to him that orders right his ways, salvation I will show. So doth offer praise me glorifies, and so to him that offer right his way. Actually, this is really close to the original. It just changes the order of order and salvation. So I'm going to go with this one, even if it is a little odd. All right, so now Psalm 50 is done. We did Yod in Psalm 119. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. Let's go ahead and productionize this. So by productionize this, I mean put it up on a real website. Now, maybe you don't need to do this kind of thing, so that's fine. This is a little more technical and involves several concepts, but I'm going to walk you through this anyway. So the first part is archiving this somewhere. I accidentally did this off camera, so I'm going to walk you through what I did again. But I went to GitLab. If you've ever heard of GitHub, where a lot of people store code, this is GitLab. So you can, and I prefer it for several reasons, but you can create a project here. I ended up just calling this by what I plan on naming the website, psalter.svrbc.org. It would make sense just to call this Psalter project or modernize Psalter or something. And then I made it public and I created the project. All right. And then that gave me this. So then I ended up taking that and feeding it over here and telling it to go ahead and push that project. So I handed it this URL and I said, please push everything to here. So now what we have back over in this archive is everything we ended up creating. And it usually does a good job of looking through and making sure there's nothing that it shouldn't be pushing up. But we have all of that up here, which is very good. We've got some information about the project and stuff. Now we need to take that and put it on a real hosting service. I use Vercel. Once again, there's a lot of options. Vercel is not going to be good for everything, but it is going to be good for websites where you don't where they're not dynamic. You're not sending information that needs to get stored anywhere. Vercel can do that in some measure, but there are limitations which I'm not going to go into. Let's go ahead and add a new project. I'm going to go to these projects. It knows that it knows from my account that I have GitLab, and it can import that. It can do this from GitHub too. Here we have this project. It's aware that it exists, so I'm going to import it, and I'm going to just keep all the defaults and let it deploy. Then while it is waiting, I can go ahead and explain the next step. After it goes up, we are going to want to make sure that, let's see, this did not look right. Continue to dashboard on this project. Let's see why that's looking like that. Okay, interesting. Well, let's go back and ask why this didn't work. Over here in our far right window is where we were having the website being built. I want to launch this on Vercel. What do you need to do to make that work? All right, if you've made the necessary changes, go ahead and push them. I'm going to go ahead and give it information about this 404 just to let it know why I'm asking for this. This is where it lives, and I was getting a 404. .404 is, of course, a not found error. I'm sure if you've been on the web long enough, you're aware of that. I just wanted you to push the Git project not to Vercel. Vercel will pick it up. All right, it's up now at psalter-svrbc-org.vercel.app. Obviously, we would like to change that domain name. So the next step here is to check out our page on Vercel and change the domain name. So I would like the domain name to be psalter.svrbc.org. And now I'm going to click save. And yeah, that's fine. Just redirect the old URL to that. And it's going to complain that I have an invalid configuration. I need to create this record in my DNS records. So what that means is if you use something like GoDaddy or Squarespace domains or whatever the case may be, I use Porkbun. And so in Porkbun, I need to go add this record. It's a CNAME record, and this is at Psalter. And this is the target that it gave me that I'm going to paste in there, and then I'm going to add that. So soon I should be able to visit psalter.svrbc.org, but we're going to need to get this to generate a certificate that's so that you can browse to it securely. HTTPS in the URL, that is, the S is the same S as in SSL, secure socket layer that gives you a secure connection while you're browsing the web. All right, and it's good to go. So let's try it. Try psalter.svrbc svrbc.org. Oh, and it's going to the old, well, that doesn't look good. What happens if I go here? Yeah, same thing. Okay. Yeah, what happened there? What's up with that? Well, it just stopped working for no reason. Let me go ahead and ask Claude. It stopped working again. Why is that? So something else I wanted to do is I wanted to mark this as done. I wanted to go back and do the same thing with Yod in Psalm 119. So we're going to go to Yod, mark that as done, and then we should be able to re-push this. Okay. Go ahead and save everything and push. So this site needs to be rebuilt every time it goes up, but I'm going to ask it if it can set Vercel up to rebuild it. Is there some Vercel configuration that can just build it when it gets sent? Yeah, every time I push up the code, that should trigger build as opposed to me needing to trigger build first. All right, well, it's up now at psalter.svrbc.org. And as you can see, we can play these different psalms. Let's go ahead and look at Yod. You know, eventually when I'm done with all this, I'll remove these badges that say modernization complete because it'll all be complete. Very nice. Beautiful. Well, I hope this has been helpful for you. I just want to expand the horizons of what you can do. Obviously, a lot of stuff in here was may have been a little hard to follow. Just leave a comment if there's something that you'd like me to explain more. But you can do a lot of this stuff that might seem just too far out there, but it's really not. It's really within reach at this point. God bless.